my name is Duncan McNair, Lord Duncan McNair. I had 9 years as a member of the House of Lords. I got involved in environment and international development while I was there. I've always had a very strong interest in people doing better. Last year, I was asked to address an Iranian discussion group in London. And the topic was the episode in Iran's history in 1952 when the Iranian government, the democratically elected Iranian government of Mohammad Mossadegh, nationalized the oil industry. Now, basically, the Anglo-Iranian Oil Company was the Iranian assets of BP, British Petroleum. So this obviously was something the British government was very concerned about. I mean, it was the first major nationalisation. It was before NASA had nationalised the Suez Canal. I mean, for them, for the British and the Americans, I mean, this was the end of civilization as we know it. What might happen next? So they brought a case in the International Court of Justice, which is actually where countries take each other to court, to try and get the Iranian government to reverse the decision. Well, the first thing that the court had to do was to decide whether it had jurisdiction, whether it could actually accept the case. And what they decided was that actually it wasn't the British government, it was a commercial company that was trying to get its assets restored. It wasn't a sovereign government whose assets had been taken by another sovereign government. So they decided by a majority of 9-5 that they did not have jurisdiction. Well, my grandfather, Arnold McNair, was at the time the British judge and then the president of the International Court of Justice. And he had done a lot of work on states' rights, and he'd seen how the Iranian government was trying to renegotiate a lot of international treaties on the basis of greater equality with the other states. And so he actually wrote a personal opinion and encouraged the court to come to the decision that it did. So whenever Iranians get together and talk about this time in their history, my grandfather's name comes up. And I was told, actually, by the gentleman who had been Mohammad Mossadegh's private secretary, I met him when he was a very old man in the 1990s, that my grandfather had been a national hero in Iran at the time, and that if he'd been invited back to Iran to broker a deal, then the whole history of Iran might have been different. But the Americans already decided on regime change. They initiated a coup, which meant that the Shah, the king of Persia, took over as the sort of absolute ruler, and democracy went out of the window. So I was actually asked, through mutual contacts, I was actually asked to come and talk about the role of my grandfather, which I was delighted to do. It meant I had to research it, and I found out a lot about it, and I talked about it. But the lady who asked me also said, please would you also say something about democracy, because the Iranian opposition is very fragmented. And so that's when I started talking about this human rights education program, which I had known about for some years but hadn't done anything with. So I brought along the materials and I talked about both aspects, and that was when they asked me to come back and talk for a whole evening just about human rights. And I said, well, yeah, I could do that, and I'd love to do that, be very happy to do that, but what would then happen after that? That would be the end of it. So I said, look, what would be much better is if you started human rights education in the Farsi language, and then you could train instructors, which is exactly what my friend in Glasgow is now doing. So that's how it all came about. So our website, peacefulplanet.org, is our loudspeaker for human rights. The materials come from Youth for Human Rights International and also United for Human Rights. And so we have these materials free of charge. The materials are available to anyone who wants to train others, to learn themselves. They can be downloaded from there. or they can be downloaded from our website. And they're available in 17 languages, all the usual European languages plus Chinese, and also being available in the 6 Middle Eastern languages into which we've had them translated since we started working with these groups. So of course they're available in English, they're available in French, they're available in Greek, and so on. So anyone who speaks any of those languages can avail themselves of these materials. And the idea is that they should become as widely available as possible, and that the number of languages will expand and so on. I mean, on the United Nations website, the actual Universal Declaration is available in 300 languages. So we've got a way to go, but at least we've made a good start.